All right, so you guys did already do some of these, but then we'll finish talking about the two that were new. You guys said that this was an observational study. And so then was it retrospective or prospective? Retro, and why is that? Good, because you looked back at the medical records. Okay, very good. Who were the subjects that were studied? Okay, we want to be specific on that. So we want to say the 360,000 Swedish men, and we were specifically, they were either overweight or had high blood pressure. So we were looking at all these files, and we came up with 360 men that were in either the overweight category or the high blood pressure category. Okay. How were they selected? It doesn't say, but seeing as how this was past medical records, do you think it's reasonable that this was a random selection?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Wouldn't that be like 360,000 plus?
Yes, sir. Okay, good. Because it said more than. They examined more than that many. Okay, good. Stamp, I don't know. I'll think about it. Okay, the parameter of interest. Okay, so this is what will we hope to conclude about the whole population? What are we trying to figure out? Okay, we want to find out if they had a higher risk of kidney cancer. So upon examining those files, what would you say, like you look at the pile of the overweight men, and what would you go through their file and look at besides the fact that they were in the overweight pile? You would look and see what?
They had high blood pressure.
Yes or no that they got kidney cancer. So it's yes or no that they got kidney cancer, and then you're going to look at the blood pressure pile, high blood pressure pile, and say yes or no, they got kidney cancer. So therefore, are we talking mean or proportion? Okay, good. So our parameter that we're interested in doing is the proportion of the overweight, and I'm going to abbreviate here, overweight and high blood pressure subjects, Swedish men, who got kidney cancer. Okay? All right. So the nature and scope of the conclusion on that. So our first question is, who do you think we can generalize to? Who do we have the right to generalize to? Good. All overweight and high blood pressure Swedish men. Because this was a random selection from their files. And then can we draw a cause and effect relationship? No cause and effect. I cannot say being overweight, if you are a Swedish man who is overweight, your overweightness causes kidney cancer. No. No cause and effect. Now, we might be able to say there is a relationship, like there's a positive relationship, that if you're more, those who are more overweight or have a higher risk. We can conclude that. We'll talk about that in another chapter later. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the next one, okay, this was the dietary plans. And this one said that we had 3 groups, okay? So we do know that we have 3 groups. And I believe that the groups are these. Let's kind of go through who the groups are. The first one was those who were fed a diet low in fat and cholesterol and high in fruits and vegetables. Okay, so that's group number 1. Low and high in fat and high in fruit and vegetable. That's group number 1. Okay, group number 2 was what? This DASH diet, the low-fat dairy foods, known as the DASH diet. Who's the third group? Good, the control diet. So those were our 3 groups of diet. I think the way this was written, it was a little unclear, and I've kind of debated over that.
I thought it said 3 groups, but I was confused because it seemed like
that was all one diet.
Right, I know. I agree. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk through that. I believe I've come to the conclusion that I think this is what the intention was. Was this an observational study or an experiment? Good. It is an experiment. So we skip this section here and go on down to our experiment questions. All right. So the subjects studied, they were the what? Yeah, we want to be specific. They were the 459 volunteers, because if they're going to have to be doing a diet, I'm sure that they volunteered for that. And what were the factors? How many?
One factor.
Three.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on. There is one factor. Yeah, my bad. There's another one that's okay. Sorry. I was just seeing how you're doing. Okay. One factor, which is the diet, and then how many levels of that factor? Yes. That was the 3 levels. And those were those ones that we highlighted a minute ago. Total of how many treatment groups? Okay, 3 treatment groups. All right, so now, what is the response being measured for each subject?
Systolic blood pressure drop.
Good. Systolic blood pressure is not a correct answer. You measured the change or the reduction or the improvement or the drop. Systolic blood pressure change, because for each patient you measured before and then they took the diet and then they had after. So each patient had one number and that was the change. So if you didn't have that word change or reduction or drop, then that would be wrong. And that is an AP grading thing. They would mark you wrong if you didn't note that change. Okay, we skipped the design question because we're not there. How about this being blind or double blind?
Neither.
Yep, it was neither. One of those, because I'm pretty sure the patient needs to know what they're eating and they can tell, and so they're not blinded. So let's go to our parameter of interest. If we say the systolic blood pressure change for a subject, which is also interesting, up here they gave us kind of an indication of how they were coming about that information, okay? So we do have that. So let's go look down here. So what would you say for the whole population we would claim?
The average blood pressure.
Yep, very good. The average change or reduction in systolic blood pressure. Okay, so that's what we would be measuring. And what is the nature and scope of this? So who can we generalize to? Generalize to these volunteers? I really want to know, how did they go from generalizing to these volunteers to a broader population? I'm going to have to research that. Okay. And then, can we claim cause and effect? Yes, cause and effect. In fact, on this one, did they actually even say randomly assigned or no? Maybe it's the next one. No, they did. Oh, perfect. So they were good for us. They even specifically mentioned that these subjects were randomly assigned. That's huge. Okay? All right. So let's move on up to the next one. Okay, this one's our Insomniacs. Is diet or exercise effective in combating insomnia? Some believe cutting desserts, and then the others think it has to do with exercise. Okay, so was this an experiment or an observational study? Experiment. Okay, very good. And so we're going to not do our little section there. We want to identify these things. Who are our subjects studied?
40 volunteer insomniacs.
Yep, 40 volunteer insomniacs. Okay, how many factors? Haha, this is what I was thinking of a minute ago whenever I messed up and freaked you out a little bit. There are 2 factors. What are the factors? Diet and exercise. Good. So a patient going through this experiment will receive 2 items assigned to them. They will get a diet regimen and they will get an exercise regimen. How many levels for diet? 2 levels. Yes, dessert or no dessert. Okay. How many exercise levels?
2.
Good. And that would be yes or no exercise. Okay, so how many treatments would that make altogether? 4 treatment groups. Okay, because you would have the, yes dessert, yes exercise, yes dessert, and then what? No exercise, okay? Now, no dessert, and what? Yes exercise, no dessert, no exercise. All right. What response will be measured for each patient?
Improvement of insomnia.
Yes, improvement of insomnia symptoms. Okay? Insomnia symptom improvement. Now, I'm going to ask you as a class, if you were designing this, because this will help us. So as a class, let's decide. Upon designing this, would you say, tell me how much your insomnia has improved on a scale of 1 to 10, or would you say, tell me if you have had an improvement, yes or no? Raise your hand if you would do a scale of 1 to 10. Raise your hand if you do yes or no. Okay, that seems to be what you guys like. So we're going to keep it simple. Yes or no, you had improvement. So we will skip the design component. And what about being blinded? No, I'm pretty sure they know if they are eating dessert or exercising. Okay, so our parameter of interest, then what will we conclude about the whole population? Good. The proportion of the insomniacs that we are allowed to generalize to, insomniacs, who, what?
Have their symptoms improved.
Yeah, improved symptoms. Have improved symptoms. And it was yes, no because of it was a proportion because it was yes, you did or no, you didn't. And who can we generalize to?
The volunteer.
Generalize to the volunteers. Do we have the right to claim cause and effect? Yeah, we do. Yes, cause and effect. So we could say, in the end, if dessert or exercise has an effect. Okay. And the last one, real quick. This one is, we want to investigate an herbal compound treating a common cold. So, was this an experiment or observational study? Experiment, okay. So, we go down here, and our subjects were who? They have to volunteer. So these are volunteers who are exposed to the cold virus. So the cold virus is not the treatment. Those are the people in our sample. Volunteers who are exposed to the cold virus, what's our how many factors? 1 factor, which was the medicine. And what were the levels? 2 levels. Good. 2 levels. They were the herbal and the sugar solution. Okay, I'm just abbreviating there. So how many treatments? 2 treatments. What response are we measuring? This is interesting, and they were very specific about this. What response?
Cold severity.
Okay. Cold severity. And we don't really even ask, it's not a reduction. It specifically says up here, cold severity scale ranging from 0 to 5. So I don't even have to poll you guys and ask you. So basically, everybody starts with 0 coming into this study, this experiment. Okay, so everybody started with 0, and then I asked each patient after however long, what's your cold severity? So that's what's being measured. Cold severity on a scale of 0 to 5? All right, we're skipping the design. And how about being blind or double blind? Ah, good. We don't know double because we don't know if the doctor was, but we do know that it is single blind. And why do we know that? Yeah, the sugar solution indicated that we had a placebo. So we were hiding from the students, or I'm sorry, we were hiding from the patients if they got that. Why? So you know what we're measuring is a cold severity. Tell me about that.
If they knew they weren't getting fixed, it would be a lot higher.
Okay? If they think they're getting a medicine, then they may think their cold is not as severe because they're like, ooh, I know I'm getting the medicine and this is going to help me. So I'm just going to rate it as a 2 when the reality is it might be a 4. Okay? So we want everybody to think that they're getting the medicine, so that is out of the mix. All right, what will our parameter, what are we going to say about everybody? Or the whole population?
Average.
Good. Average cold severity of, the patients on the herbal compound. Okay. And who can we generalize to? Yep, just the volunteers. Generalize to the volunteers. Who volunteers for that? Yeah, pick me. I want to get a cold virus. Oh, college kids. Oh, yeah, I need money. Okay. This makes me think of those commercials where the people stick their hand into a box with all the mosquitoes and the mosquitoes are all over it, where they're like testing the mosquito repellent. Oh my gosh, who would do that? You'd have to pay me a lot to do that. Okay. What can we conclude? Cause and effect?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Okay, so I will end up stamping you guys later on this because we're going to go ahead and go on to our confounding and lurking variable notes. So